Annie, I found the videos on Reckless Ben and Mike's Scientology infiltration fascinating. Ben was adamant that he had been brainwashed during his auditing session, and listening to it, no wonder. It was bizarre. I can understand that the uninitiated mind would have very little idea how to handle such a psychological assault. Do you think that by engaging in auditing sessions regularly, albeit on the other side of the table, the auditors themselves are actually re-brainwashing/reprogramming themselves? It would be a very effective way of ensuring that the Scientology masses self-police and maintain compliance without Big Brother having to stand over them. Oh, very much so. You've actually hit on a very key part of how Scientology continues to exist, because it has to have mechanisms like this that keep the indoctrination fresh and alive. And for auditors, not all Scientologists, in fact, a small percentage of Scientologists are auditors. Very few of them actually regularly audit other people. Of course, there are solo auditors who, of course, are keeping up the indoctrination by going in session every single day and doing the auditing processes and looking at the meter for confirmation of what's going on in their head and or with their body thetans and all of that. So that, of course, is a re-up of the indoctrination on a daily basis. So are the, by the way, the more powerful, I think the most powerful re-indoctrination that occurs in Scientology are the events. They occur, 7, 8, 9 times a year. David Miscavige comes out on stage, gives all this fake news and false statistics and information, and puffs everybody up on how awesome Scientology is and what it's doing in the world. And of course, all the things they're talking about are super hyped up, overly exaggerated nonsense. But the Scientologists crave this information because they need to have that fix, that rejuvenation of morale and spirit in the goals and purposes of Scientology, because they are out in the real world not seeing any signs that Scientology is doing anything effective to change conditions in the world, because it's not. And that's just the blatant truth of the matter. So they're desperate to find this. They can't find it in the media anywhere. You can fact check the things that get talked about at the events, and you find nothing about this. Like, for example, the whole claim that Scientology got reduced or did away with the drug problem in Colombia. Right? This was a big thing. They were talking about how they were working with the military, passing out Way to Happiness books, educating the public about how horrible drugs are. And as a direct result of this, the Colombia drug trade, declined and crashed and burned. And of course, there's no mention of, beefing up the police forces or the military or American intervention or any other intervention or any of the other factors that took place that had to do with that. And I'm no expert on it. I'm just saying that there were definitely other things going on that brought those drug statistics down. And of course, now I believe, as what I've been told, is that they're going back up. So Scientology will claim credit for this kind of thing, but you try to fact check it, you can't find anything, right? Or worse, you find stuff, where the church is really stepping in it, like the time that Miscavige got that award from some retired Colombian military person, and they made it this big deal as though Colombia was awarding David Miscavige something. And of course they weren't, and it was just all very silly. So anyway, so they're desperate for something, anything to re-up their belief. And so to directly answer your question about auditors, absolutely. The auditing process works just as much on the auditor as it does on the pre-clear. And by that I mean that the auditor's expecting certain things to happen. And the session has to run through until those things happen. And then, the meter is supposed to do certain things if you're using an e-meter. The pre-clear is supposed to have a win or cognition or realization about life, and is supposed to be happy at the end of the session. And you're going to keep running that session until that happens. And when both people in the room understand that those are the conditions upon which you can leave the room, then of course the pre-clear will eventually be able to produce that result. And that just reinforces the auditor's belief that this is, of course, the desired result that always happens. Right, so it's this weird, like I don't know what term to use for that, except that one person's confirming what the other person is expecting, the other person's confirming what. I mean, it's sort of this double weird thing that goes on, right? And this mutual reinforcement of what's supposed to happen, and you always somehow make that happen. But believe me, it's not an organic process. If sessions were allowed to run their course to where people really felt done and wanted out, then you wouldn't have that end result, right? But Scientologists insist that they know best, and L. Ron Hubbard insisted that he knew exactly what was wrong with every single person on the planet, regardless of context, culture, background, education, or anything else. And he's going to enforce this methodology on you. And so if you don't respond, there's something wrong with you, not with Hubbard's methods. All right. So anyway, so it is a mutually reinforcing thing, and absolutely that's part of the Scientology indoctrination.